Raleigh County, where new leadership is taking the reins in the biggest municipality and the most populated county here in the two Virginias. Both of these new leaders say that they are eager to make positive impacts on the communities. Our Abby Lester speaks to both the new county commissioner, Daniel Hall, and Beckley's mayor-elect, Ryan Neal.
Excitement rolls through Raleigh County as two new leaders are at the dawn of taking office. Daniel Hall was appointed to the county commission. It happened earlier this month when the beloved Dave Tolliver passed away suddenly. With Hall's extensive political background, he says that he feels that he is open and ready to take on position and continue forward progress.
I want to continue some of the same work that's been done in the past. I mean, the Raleigh County Commission has done some tremendous work with water and sewer projects, expansion of economic development, just things like that. And I want to continue that. There's lots left to do, a lot left to do, and that'll never end. And also just repairing the systems that are already there, just to keep them up to date.
Hall also tells us that he wants to continue work with the Parks and Rec. The goal, continue developing Raleigh County to be a place that attracts business. He stresses that he knows that there's room for improvements and some things need to be nipped in the bud before real problems bloom into bigger issues. For the city of Beckley, the new mayor takes his oath of office Monday. Ryan Neal shifts from mayor-elect to the new mayor. It's a move he says that he's more than just excited for. He's confident that he can make Beckley an even better and more appealing place.
I've lived in different towns. Beckley is where it's at. This place is great. And I think a lot of people think that, but if they went and moved somewhere else, they'd probably come back within a year and be like, you know what, Beckley's actually a pretty good place to live. But what we want to do is just try to make it even more exciting, more fun things to do, you know, especially for kids. The college, you know, with West Virginia Tech right here, they've got room to grow. You know, we want them to get more students. We just want to make the whole city more appealing.
Both new leaders believe that working together in the future will help to develop a stronger community across Raleigh County. Here for you in Beckley, West Virginia, I'm Abby Lester, WVVA News.